My name is Brett. I love God. I love guns. I love wild game. During my years of hunting, I've had a few encounters with a creature called Bigfoot. Here are my stories. So as the title says, these are my Bigfoot stories. I've had numerous Bigfoot encounters in the past while I've been hunting. And I'm going to tell you a story right now. Now, first off, I have to say this. These are all 100% true. I'm not lying whatsoever. Now, I'm not embellishing anything. So, listen closely, and I'll tell you about my first Bigfoot experience. So, it's hunting season. It's deer season. I think it's like the second or third week. Can't remember. It's about 2018-ish. Might be 2017. I can't quite remember. So, my cousin, he comes to me and he says, hey, this certain property, I went and checked it out, and I've been to this certain property before. I won't disclose where these properties are because I still hunt these properties, and other people do too. I don't want a bunch of people running around banging sticks against trees and going, because that doesn't work. It doesn't. And I'll explain that later in a different video. So he says, hey, I've checked out this property. I think we should get there before daylight, sit on the edge of this hillside looking over a field. Now, to give you kind of how it is, so we got this hillside and you got open woods, actually just a field, sorry. And then you have the woods kind of in like a W shape and just a little thin line of trees, about 6-inch trees, like not even like 5 to 10 yards deep, connecting the fields. And when you go through the fields and the wooded part and that little middle part, it opens up to the river and a little bit, probably about 75 to 100 yards worth of just like bank where there's no trees, just taller grass, probably about 3 foot tall grass and weeds and stuff. So we get out there, it's before daylight, and we're sitting there. Nothing comes out. Daylight comes up. And we get tired of sitting there. And I'm like, yeah, let's go walk and see if we can see something else. And so we look in the field and we're looking in to the trees and stuff and don't see anything, maybe like a doe here and there. But we get to that middle W where it's about, 10 yards deep. It's like field, trees about 10 yards deep. And they're only like 6-inch trees. And then it opens up again, that river is right there. And on the river, it's got like a 10-foot drop to the river. So we're getting towards the middle of that W towards the river. And we look and we see a muley deer. And its head's down and it's behind a tree. Now I can see that it's a forker, which means it's a 2x2. Certain places call them 4x4s, but we call them up here a 2x2 or a forker. And he's looking at me and he's like, hey, he's over here to my left, probably about like 25 feet, 30 feet. Hey, what's that? I can't see what it is. And I said, yeah, it's a forker. He didn't care what he was going to shoot. So that deer doesn't even care we're there and just walks. And we're probably about not even 75 yards away from this little buck. And it walks into that 10 yards of those little trees. And then all of a sudden you just see its butt just disappear. And my cousin, he's like, let's walk up slowly. So walk up slowly. And through those 10 yards of trees, you can see that other field, or that bank with the tall grass. You can see it. So with us being able to see through it, when we walk up to it and we're kind of crossing through it, and we get to the other side, the deer's gone, like completely gone. Like it didn't run. There was no nothing. We would have seen that fast movement because the trees are so staggered in that little 10 yards. So he's looking at me and I'm looking at him, and we're just like, oh, where'd he go? He kind of peeks over the side of the river. He's over there. And then I'm just kind of looking around. And then a little way forward, you have the river over here. You have that tall grass. And then there's this dip that's got this huge brush pile, like right on the side of it, like this weird dip that's probably about 15 yards wide. So there's a dip and that brush pile. So we walked probably about not even 10 steps, and then the nastiest smell just pops up. Now, a lot of people have described what Bigfoot smells like. That's kind of undescribable, but kind of really, really gross. And it really is. So he looks at me when we smell this and he goes, "You smell that?" I was like, "Yeah, that is nasty." To describe it, it smelled like a dumpster. Like if somebody had a Mexican restaurant dumpster with rotten food, that's what it smelled like. Exactly like that, like rotten food. And that smell should have not been in those woods. It made no sense that smell was there. And as soon as we smelled it, the smell just disappeared. And he's like, "What do you think that was?" I was like, "Yeah." I was joking at the time. I was like, "Probably just Bigfoot." And so he's like, "All right, I'm gonna walk ahead about 20, 30 yards and then walk through this, the bank clearing over to the woods to look in." That's where he was gonna go. I said, "I'm gonna walk over to the far right of him, behind him, and kind of scour that edge of the bank where the bank of all that grass and stuff meets those trees. And then I'm gonna circle back through that dip, just in case the deer got in the woods right there, that little buck, or was hiding over there in the dip." And the dip was only about like 5 foot deep. So it was like ground, dip, but it was probably about like 25 yards long was a dip. So he goes his way, and then I circle back. And so I'm getting towards the dip and I see that brush pile, and I'm looking straight ahead at this point. Something's not right. So I walk down it, and I'm walking, and the brush pile is coming up, and it's big. I mean, it's like piled up big. And I notice in the peripheral of my left side, something big and dark crouching in that brush pile. Now, it wasn't a deer sitting or laying. I've seen that a million times. Something big and dark. And when it was crouched down, it was about my height, and I'm about 5'9". And it was hiding. So I have two options. I can turn to my left and look at right ever it's trying to hide from me, or I can keep my eyes straight and keep walking, because that smell started to come back. So I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna look at my peripheral and just keep moving. And it was dark and big. And I walked through that dip and then back through that 10-yard tree line. And as soon as I walk across it, I heard splash! And I'm like, what the was that? So I turn around and I look at the dip. That dark spot's gone. Now I run over to the river. Nothing's there. Gone. So met up with my cousin and I asked him if he heard that, and he said, "Yeah, I heard that." He goes, "What was it?" He goes, "Well, that deer?" I was like, "That was not a deer." So we both agreed it wasn't a deer because that was quite loud. And that river is it's like a stream basically at that point. It's only probably about like 3 foot deep. So whatever it was, if that was a Bigfoot, which I pretty well sure after all my different encounters later, it was. I want to tell you something, but that's for a different story. But anyways, we kind of speculated what happened with that deer. We don't know exactly, but I thought to myself, maybe that Bigfoot snatched that deer up, because that deer just disappeared. I mean, I've seen deer run, I've heard deer run. I've hunted for years and years and years, and they just don't vanish like that. I've never seen that happen, where it's just no sign of it, nothing, not even a tail, because we weren't that far away, and you could see through those 10 yards. So maybe he did, maybe he didn't, but he took off once he got clear of us. So that same hunting season, there is another property. I will say there is a property because I still hunt out there today, which I do have a name for. So same thing. He's like, "Yeah, we gotta, the next morning we gotta sit over in this corner because all these deer, I've seen the deer pop out at night, so they gotta come out in the morning." So we got to get out there before light and walk out there. All right, cool. Different property. And so we get out there. The moon is just beaming. You can see, you know, reflections of the moon on the ground and the trees. The moon was bright. I won't say sun, but it's the moon. And it was windy. Anyways, we get out of the truck. It's dark, but you can still see. And I'm getting my stuff on. He's getting stuff on. He looks over in that field. He goes, "Whoa, did you see that?" I'm like, "What? What are you talking about?" He goes, "Over there." He goes, "Do they have cattle out here?" It's like, "No." "Well, do they got bears out here?" It's like, "No." It's like a non-bear property. You would never see a bear there in a million years. I was like, maybe it's like a hay bale that you thought was something big. He goes, "No, it was moving fast across that way." I was like, I don't know. I don't know what you saw. But I did find out later what it was and where it was going. And that is a property that I have a ton of stories about, that I call it, my son calls, the Bigfoot property. And I have a ton of stories about that property. Now, if you like the story you heard, please give the channel a like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of the videos and all of my Bigfoot stories. And also, I am going to take you out and show you the Bigfoot property. And if you like watching people hunt Bigfoot, check out my buddy Cody and his friends on Catfish Commonwealth. They do a lot of Bigfoot hunting. It's very entertaining and fun to watch. Until next time, God bless you and have a great day.